If you're interested in building digital products, or perhaps working as a freelance marketer, copywriter, or starting an agency in that space, then I think you're going to love today's episode. So my guest today was Primoz, who is the co-founder and CEO of an online agency called WeCreateCourses. And what they do is they launch online courses and other educational products together with experts in certain fields. They went from 0 to over 1 million in revenue in just 2 years. And Primoz is a good friend of mine. So we talked a lot about just behind the scenes, how they launched the agency, how they find experts, how they build new products, how they market those products, and so on and so forth. And Primoz went quite in depth with some of those subjects. So I think you're going to get a lot of value out of the episode. It's a little bit of a different episode because in the Founders Lounge, I typically talk to UK-based founders. Primoz is not based in the UK. He is from Slovenia, but he is a very, very knowledgeable in this space, and he's very open to sharing a lot of details. So I think you're going to find it useful. And if you do, please give us a like or a review or subscribe to our channels if you want to hear more interviews like this. Now enjoy the episode. Primoz, welcome to the Founders Lounge.
Hey, happy to be here.
The second time already. So actually you were a guest, like a year and a half ago. The podcast was very, very different back then. So we're doing things a little bit differently right now. And I think we're going to talk about very different things because you guys had some very, very good success with your business, and I can't wait to dive more into that. But maybe before we get to that, just pretty much for everyone who doesn't know you, who are you? How do you introduce yourself these days?
Hi, I'm Primoz. I am a copywriter. I'm a CEO and co-founder of a couple of different online marketing companies. What I do is I try to sell good products as best as possible. So if I find a product, if I find a service, if I find someone who I want to work with, I try to use my copywriting skills to just help a lot of people solve their problems and make everybody really, really happy. That's, I help people make more money. That's it. It's very simple.
And you really mastered copywriting. You've been doing copywriting now for what, more than 10 years? You and I know each other more than 10 years. And I think that's kind of when you started.
Yeah, started, I think like the first word of copy, even though I didn't know it back then, was written in 2012. So okay. I think it was like a 10-year anniversary this year. Yeah.
There we go. Just about 10 years. All right, before we continue, I want to take a second to talk about our sponsor. I've always been saying that one of the best ways to learn about business is by working closely with a smart and successful entrepreneur, and this might be your opportunity. Our sponsor is a company called Judge Me. Judge Me is a Shopify product review plugin, and they're the #1 plugin on Shopify. They're literally, if you look at the Shopify App Store, they're in the first spot. They're bootstrapped, and they managed to outcompete other companies that raise hundreds of millions of dollars by just being smarter and building a better product. They were started by PJ, who was also a guest on the Founders Lounge, episode 54, so I recommend you to check it out. They recently moved their headquarters to London, and they're looking for smart people to join them. They're looking for product managers, engineers, and they're looking to fill other roles as well. So check out careers.judge.me and see if you find any role that you like and apply. So that's careers.judge.me. Now, enjoy the rest of the episode. All right, cool. So I think we're going to dive into copywriting quite a lot because that's one thing that you're exceptionally good at. And I think there's a lot we can talk about that. And I think that's a skill that, oh man, it's just so useful when you become good at it. There's so many benefits of it. But yeah, I think before we get there, you, as you said, one of the things that you do is you're the CEO of WeCreateCourses. So what is WeCreateCourses? What do you guys do?
So WeCreateCourses, there's a story behind this. A couple of years ago, I was still living in the Netherlands. I was running my own consulting business. I was writing copy for a couple of clients, and I was just living my life. And then at one point, I was maybe a little bit bored of what I was doing. And I was thinking, okay, what do I want to do next? So I sent a message to a friend of mine in Slovenia, and I just asked him like, hey, what's the online course situation like in Slovenia? Because I never really entered that market in the past. And I thought like, oh, there's no money to be made. People can't pay that much. If there's $1,000 monthly salary, what can people really buy, right? And I just sent him a message, not expecting anything. And like 2 minutes later, he sent me a message and said like, "Hey, let's jump on a call." I'm like, "Okay." Same afternoon, we jump on a call, and he's like, "Hey, I have this idea. I want to start like a marketing agency here in Slovenia. We want to create online courses. We want to partner with experts who are really good at something, and just sell online courses for them." Now, the timing for that was great because COVID just started. So there was lockdown, and over the next 2 years, everybody pretty much started moving their businesses online. But I do believe we were one of the first businesses that really doubled down on that opportunity early on in the process. So we had that call. I think it was like half an hour, nothing special. And so like, okay, let's do this. Let's give this a shot. And I think like 3 days after that, we spoke with the first potential expert that we could work with. And a week later, we had our first online course recorded in the studio. And 2 weeks later, we launched it quite successfully, just to the email list of the expert. And we made about 15K in revenue, basically in like 2 weeks, which was crazy. So my co-founder, he brought his own team because he has a tourism company that kind of like fell apart a little bit when COVID just shut everything down. And he had this great team. He had a great developer. He had a great operations expert. He had a great designer. He already knew all the right people. So all that I really needed to do was think about, okay, how can we create an amazing course that we can sell? And then how can we, sell it as well as possible? So yeah, we used zero Facebook ads. We didn't use any sort of advertising at all. Just an email list of actually just 1,000 people. It wasn't a whole lot at that time. And yeah, like things just skyrocketed right from the get-go. And I want to say the rest is history. So over the next 2 years, we developed, I think, about 35 different digital products with just this one expert. So we developed everything from ebooks to memberships to physical products, online courses, all sorts of things we tried. A lot of them succeeded. Some of them were bestsellers. Some of them flopped a little bit. And it was just this year that we actually hit our first $1 million in revenue. I think we're at like 1.2 or something like that so far. And yeah, it's been quite a ride. So that's been one of my main focuses over the past 2 years. And yeah, really never thought that this would be possible just because everybody's saying like, oh, don't go to Slovenia. Nobody's going to pay for this stuff. Everybody's just going to think it's like scammy marketing. That's never going to work in Slovenia. You cannot use like this direct response copy, long form copy. You can't do these things, right? And if I listen to those people, then I wouldn't have a business right now. It's not this business, right? So instead, by just going and testing things and learning as much as possible from our own mistakes, from our own experiments, we now have more than, I think it was like 43,000 customers, which is for Slovenia, which is about 2 million population. That's a pretty decent number, right? So yeah, like that's really how that business just evolved and grew on a high level.
I love how you guys started so quickly. So I think that's such an important point that a lot of people are not really doing it like that, especially if you're a first-time founder. You said, you send a message to your co-founder, you jumped on a call, and like two weeks later, you had the first product out, which is just moving incredibly fast, right? What happens very often is people just get stuck in a lot of conversations and, I don't know, I guess just a lot of wishful thinking and planning and not actually launching. So you said, initially you did an online course. Was it like a video course? Was that the first product?
Yes, that was our first course. We went into a studio. The expert would speak to the camera and he would just share his advice. And we would record maybe like 30 different videos. We would package that into an online course. That was our first product, yeah.
And then you tried all sorts of different digital products as well. So what's the difference, or what are you focused on now? Because I feel like in the beginning you were doing more video courses, but now you're doing less of that. But I could also be wrong because I don't know entirely.
No, that's true. That's true. So in the beginning we launched our first course. I think then about 2 to 3 months later we launched another one. 2 to 3 months later we launched another one. And we talk about being lean. We talk about speed here. We thought we were being lean at that time. I think we could have been way more lean, to be honest. I think we did a lot of things right. We set up our websites really fast. Our design was nothing special, but it was good enough to convert. We didn't try to be perfect with our copy, right? We did a lot of things right. We didn't complicate unnecessary things, try to get this fancy software or analytics or, worry about any sort of ads or things like that. We just try to go really, really lean. I don't think we were as lean as we could have been because later on it turned out that we're spending a lot of time and a lot of money on just going into the studio, shooting the courses, editing them. That took a lot of time, especially when we wanted to record like 3 or 4 courses at once. Then we might have to wait like a couple of months for somebody to actually edit them. And that I would say slowed us down considerably. But yeah, like the first iteration, it was just online courses. So we recorded probably like 8, 10 of those on every topic imaginable that we thought would work pretty well. So we just went down the list. Initially it's one of the things that I always do in copywriting is we create this master research document where we try to collect everything that we know, one, about the expert or the person that we're working with or the product, and then second of all, our customers. So, this expert, when we started working together with him, he sent us the list of, I think, about 117 different workshops he's ever hosted at different schools throughout the country. So, of course, I looked for that list. And then he wrote about, I think, 15, 16 books to date. So I just went and read some of his books, right? I asked him to send me some PDFs because I was still in the Netherlands back then. I was running this company remotely, and I just read some of his books so I could understand, what's going on, what's he really good at, what's our competitive advantage, why do people love him so much that, he has 500 speeches across the country every single year. So I tried to just understand the expert. And then the second thing that we did is we emailed his email list, and then when we set up our own email list, also our own email list, and we sent out this really detailed questionnaire to people. It's like, hey, why did you join our email list? What kind of challenges do you have right now? What are you struggling with right now? What do you want to change about your parenting? How would your life be different? What kind of products would you buy from us? How much would you pay for them? And so on and so on. It was this really detailed survey, I think about 15 questions. And so far we have probably like 7,000 responses for like 15 questions. So we know everything that we could possibly know, or the vast majority of it when it comes to parenting. We understand, where are the patterns, where are the trends. And when we started developing our products, we simply looked at those patterns and we said like, okay, this is a thing that repeats itself over and over and over again. So, in Slovenia, there's this weird thing. Lots of parents struggle with stubborn kids. Like I don't find that trend as much abroad, but in Slovenia, like there's just this inherent stubbornness that we have as Slovenians apparently, because 1 out of 3 parents would say that they struggle with having a stubborn kid, and they don't know how to raise them well, and they fight back at them, and if they ask them to do something, they do the opposite, and so on and so on. So I saw this trend, so we developed a course on that, right? And then we saw, okay, they struggle with schoolwork, they struggle with chores, so we started developing products on those topics, right? We just chunk down, find all the patterns, and then start developing courses one by one on those specific topics. So that was stage one. And then eventually stage one stopped working because like the courses that we sold, like the revenue kind of like slowly started to go down. Initially it went up, especially once we started doing some advertising, but there was a breaking point when it just felt like we were pursuing diminishing returns. It just wasn't worth going into the studio anymore. It just didn't feel like there was enough impact to be made from creating these new courses. So eventually we stopped creating them. We did a couple more webinars. So we used the same principle. The expert would come in, talk for like 2 hours. We'll develop a framework with him that he would share, that we could also market. And then, he would have a Q&A in the end. So we started selling webinars for a while. I think we sold maybe like 5 to 10 of those, but then also that stopped working because we were not launching these courses or webinars once every 6 months. Even at that stage, we were probably launching one product a month. And now we actually have a launch every single week, which is something we can get into later, like the misconceptions around it, how frequently we can launch and so on and so on. Now, so we developed new products, and then the webinars also stopped working a little bit. Like, did it okay? Every launch will generate a couple of $1,000, maybe $10,000, maybe 15, maybe 5. It depends on the topic. But at a certain point, I felt like, okay, we need to start doing something new because other people in the meanwhile started copying us. And then all of a sudden there were like 10 brands doing parenting courses. And I could see, I could go to a website from someone else and I could see that they just basically stole our copy. They looked at 5 of our sales pages, combined them into one, and then I would laugh because they were completely missing the point. They had no idea what they were doing, and the results weren't great. But still, what started happening is people saw more and more advertisements from more and more people, and it started to saturate the market a little bit. So we always, when we run our business, we try to stay 1 or 2 steps ahead of the competition. I'm not the type of person that studies the competition. A lot of people have this strategy, which I think it can be a great strategy. Like they go abroad, they look at, okay, what's working in the USA right now, and then they just copy everything, and then they build a business in Slovenia or Europe, like in German or Italian or Polish language or whatever. And that's a model that works because you take an idea that works, you modify it, you localize it, that works. But that's never been my approach because then you're always like 1 or 2 steps behind. And you can, in my experience, you can never really dominate the global market because then you're just, like a poor copy of the competitors. So what I like to think about is, okay, how can we stay 1 to 2 steps ahead of our competitors? And there's still a little element of, I'm not going to say copying, but it's more like modeling. So when I see an idea that's really interesting, let's say I see an e-commerce checklist, that's a great product that helps a lot of people, go to their website and just work through it and improve all of the different parts of the website so they can increase the conversions of their website. I think like, oh, that's an interesting idea, that's an interesting concept. Now what if we applied the checklist concept to copywriting or to parenting or to fitness? Like how does that work? So we take an idea that works, but from not the same industry but from a different industry. So I like coming up with ideas that way. Or I see this 28-day keto challenge for like the keto diet. Okay, how can we apply that to copywriting, parenting, and so on and so on? So that's how we, that's like the quick and dirty way of coming up with new product ideas. So we started doing that, and then we started doing some challenges. So we did like a 28-day no yelling challenge in Slovenia, which quickly became like the bestseller. I can't share the exact numbers here, but if you compare it to any of the products that we launched previously, this product did like 5 times better than any other product before over the course of like a year and a half. It was like a killer bestseller because we combined like a new product type that wasn't present in Slovenia. And then we combined it with this big pain that Slovenian parents and also worldwide parents have, which is they can't get their kids to listen without yelling at them. So we developed a product that helps you do just that. We have these no yelling tools, which you can use instead of yelling to get your kids' attention. That will save you a lot of time, a lot of energy. And when you use them, like the kids are actually happy to collaborate with you. Like, for example, like instead of yelling at your kids, you just whisper to them, speak to them really quietly. And when you're whispering to a kid, they will pay attention. Like they're just wired to do that because like it's just so weird for them. And it's not manipulating the kids. It's just like, using strategies like this, like using different approaches that are not, as violent as yelling, that don't have like negative consequences. And, kids love it. Kids prefer if somebody whispers to them than if somebody yells at them, right? So we collected a bunch of these different techniques and we built a product out of that. And, since then, we've also experimented with things like ebooks. We're going to launch some checklists in the near future. We're playing around with like an infographics product with like the biggest, most important parenting concepts and so on and so on. So again, we always try to stay 1 to 2 steps ahead because with the launch frequency that we have, we know that any new product type that we put out there, it's going to work for maybe half a year or a year. And then it's still going to do okay, but it's not going to be a bestseller. Instead of like a 50K launch, the second launch might be a 25K launch, the third launch might be a 10K launch, and then there's a point of diminishing returns. And as long as you have like 35 products like we have, you can cycle them. But we really know that the thing that's going to move the needle for our company is coming up with this new breakthrough type of product that's just unique, that's just different, that just solves a problem in a different way. And that's what we try to focus on right now. So to always stay 1 to 2 steps ahead. And then also, now we're thinking about which products are we going to launch in 2023, first quarter, second quarter, third quarter. So we try to have within our team, we try to have the strategic meetings. We have one next Monday, and we just try to brainstorm a bunch of different products for all of the businesses that we run. And then when something works really well with one of our businesses, we'll also just use the same concept and try it in different niches over and over again. So that's how we kind of like think about product development, if that answers your question.
Yes, that makes a lot of sense. That and very, very insightful. So you mentioned launches before, right? Which is it's pretty interesting because I think a lot of people have this idea, especially when it comes to online courses, but maybe products in general, that you just develop something and then you market that for like I don't know a year or years, but your strategy is very different. You said that you launch one new product under the same brand, so with the same expert in this case, with the same, I suppose, mentor, if you want. You launch a new product every single week. Why is that important?
Okay, so a couple of things I want to share here. Yes,
And
sure.
how do you even manage to launch one new thing every single week, which sounds pretty intense?
Yeah, so the first thing is just the correct distinction. It's not launch a new thing every single week, it's just launch something every single week.
Right. Okay. Yeah.
Right. So we like nowadays, if I look at our schedule, we'll probably launch one new product a month, and three of the products are going to be relaunches of old products.
And then
And
what is a relaunch?
yeah, when I speak about relaunches, typically what we'll do is we'll send out a couple of emails, maybe it's like 3 to 5 sales emails within a certain week. And we'll also run ads on a special offer. So the strategy that we use right now in our business that has proven to be the best for us is just give some sort of a discount, give some sort of a deal on the product. We actually tested the approach of opening and closing enrollment so that, enrollment would be closed and then it's only open within like the 1 week, which is a model that a lot of people still use. So it's like, okay, I have this copywriting course and you can only join it 4 times a year, right? We tried that approach, and to be honest, the conversions and the revenue from launches that where we use like an open and close cart and like with a discount was pretty much the same. There was no drastic difference, but the difference was that if you have the products always open and then just occasionally give a deal on it, then you can still run ads to the products throughout the year, the ones that are selling well, and then also people can just buy to the website and come to the website and just buy the product that they're most interested in. So even though we might sell a product like helping someone like raise their stubborn kids for like I don't know $30, $40, they can buy it at our website at any time for like $80, and you're just thinking like, okay, well, who's gonna pay like $80? Well, the thing is, parenting is a weird thing, and when you have a big problem, when you can't sleep at night, when you're at the end, of your nerves, when you're just like you have enough of everything, you will pay the $80. It's a very pain-driven decision, and we noticed that while it's not maybe like 50% of our revenue, people come to our website every day. They buy new products, even if they're not discounted, because when the pain is big enough, they'll buy. So we have those additional benefits, and also we can run things like Google Ads to these products. So again, we might increase that revenue by like 10% at the end of the month. So that's how that's why we made that decision to do launches with discounts. And then there's this big philosophy that I was taught years ago. It's like, oh, if you offer discounts on your products, then nobody's ever going to buy them at the full price. Which is why you should never discount unless you're a very discount-oriented brand. And I just have found that not to be true. I think you do have to be a little bit strategic with discounting. Like, for example, with the Black Friday coming up in a couple of months. Oops, one second. Yeah, so with the Black Friday coming up in a couple of months, we're going to have a different deal on a different product every single day. And what we do need to pay attention to is that we don't launch the same products like in, let's say, 2 to 3 months before Black Friday and 2 to 3 months after Black Friday. Because it's true, if we have a similar deal right now, then the Black Friday launch is not going to do as well. And then also, if we do a Black Friday launch and something is 70% off, nobody's probably going to buy it at 20% off like a month from then, apart from the people that have like a really big pain, but they'll buy it anyway at the full price, right? So you do have to be a little bit strategic with that. But overall, I just haven't found that discounting would really hurt your brand, because when you have a new product that you're putting on the market, if you're good at developing new products, then people are still going to pay the full price because they can't get it at a discounted price. And you might argue, oh, they'll buy it when there's a discount, but they don't know where there's a discount. If we have 30 different products, that means that we'll, develop 10 new ones over the next year. If we have a deal on a product right now, we'll probably have the next deal maybe 6 months, a year from now. And again, if you have a big pain, you're not going to wait for that. Just like, it's not worth the time. So, again, you can get away with this if you have 30 products. If you have one product and you discount it at 50%, and you're just selling that one product, then of course, like if you try to launch it again in 3 months at the full price, people are not going to buy it. But again, we try to, build our business in a way where we are not limited by such things, by having like a large variety of things that we can offer. We can offer them on upsells, on bump orders, on all different parts of the funnel, and we never really run out of products to sell, right? So, okay, so I took a little bit of a detour just to show you how we structure our launches. So it's always email and it's Facebook ads. Those are the two key elements of our launches. Now, when I started writing copy, I was taught that, again, you can launch something once every 3 months. That was the first thing I learned. Then I learned that you could launch something maybe every 2 months, but in the meanwhile, in between, you should just provide a ton of value to your audience. You should just like give them value, lots of advice. And then again, after 2 months, you can launch that product again. That's what I was taught, but then I was also taught that you can have a business that has like 1, 2, or 3 products. You don't have to have 20, 30 products, which I don't believe you can build a solid business that way. It's just a maybe slightly different model. So those were the ideas that I had coming into this market. And when we started playing around with ideas that we could launch a product every single month for the first time, I was feeling a little bit uncomfortable because it's like, no, you're not supposed to do that. That's not what I was taught. People are just going to unsubscribe massively. And then we did it and it was okay. At a certain time, it was not really a question of whether we want to do that or not. It was a question of survival. Because when you have a company, when you have a bigger team, you're going to pay $10,000, $20,000 a month on salaries. And if you choose not to launch a product 1 month, then you're, $10,000, $20,000 in the red. And that's not a very sustainable way to run a company. One of your launches doesn't do very well, what are you going to do then? So it was never really an option for us to keep doing like a launch once every 2 to 3 months, like we did in like the first year of our business. We had to scale that up if we wanted to survive. And also like the people just didn't have the opportunity to buy anything, right? They didn't have the opportunity to get a deal. And like if they have an opportunity, they'll buy. It's like having a restaurant that's open 1 day a week. It's great and you can be fully booked on that 1 day, but wouldn't it be better if you were actually open like 5, 6 days a week so everybody can get their table, everybody can get their reservation? Just like a larger volume of customers is always helpful for a business. So for a certain time, we were at the stage when we were launching something once a month, and then nothing bad happened. We didn't get significantly more unsubscribes. Our email list continued to grow. People were still happy. People didn't complain more. And then we just thought about, well, let's push the boundaries, right? Let's push the envelope. So we went to 2 launches a month, and then 3 launches a month, and then eventually 4 launches a month, which is what we've been doing for the last, I would say probably like just since the beginning of this year. And nothing horrible has happened. Has our launch revenue per launch gone down slightly for the product that we relaunch? Yes, it has. But just the overall revenue, the overall profitability, when you have money coming into your business every single week, even if it's $5,000, it makes a difference. Because you can have one great launch, you can have a couple of so-so launches. It's still, like the $10,000, $15,000 extra at the end of the month can make a difference between having a break-even business versus, earning $20,000 a month. And you want to have a profitable business so you can have a good runway, so you can invest in your team, so you can grow the business further, so you can enter new markets. Like you want to have that cash flow coming into the company. You don't want to just rely on that one launch a month, and then if it flops, you're screwed, right? And then you have to shut down the company like 3 to 4 months from then. That's, to me, that's not comfortable. So as we did this, again, open rates of our emails didn't go drastically down. Conversions went down maybe a little bit, but the net revenue is just still so much higher. People don't complain that much more than they did before. We'll always get a couple of hate emails, but when you have an email list of like 60,000 people, you'll get that. just unsubscribe them and move on with your life. But yeah, nothing really bad happened. It's just also like what you have to understand is that we only send emails, we only market to people who don't have that specific product yet. So if somebody has bought 10 of our products, they won't be getting the launches for those 10 products. So they actually won't be getting a launch every single week. The only people who are going to be getting a launch every single week for a year is those who never buy from us. And if they get pissed off and unsubscribe after they went for 15 launches, then okay, they're probably not going to buy from us anyway. So at least they're not that weight anymore. We're not paying, thousands of dollars to keep the email list running for them. So that's okay with us at the end of the day, right?
Fascinating. Really cool. And so you said we talked mostly about the parenting brand right now, which obviously is the most, I think it's the most successful brand that you have. And you're running a few different brands, and some of them are successful, some of them are or were not a success. Do you have any hypothesis? What was the difference between those? So, some of them were incredible success, some of them not so much. Did you guys do any analysis or any kind of retrospection on what went wrong with the ones that were not that successful?
Yeah, I think that's a great question, and absolutely, like it sounds great in theory when I tell you about our big success story, which is the parenting brand in Slovenia, or it's one of the success stories, right? What you don't see is my co-founder speaking with over 150 experts over the course of a couple of months in Slovenia. Like he would just be at a lunch, breakfast, dinner with a different expert every day, trying to find collaborations, trying to find people to work with, because we had this model. We knew how to create courses, we knew how to shoot them, we knew how to sell them. Slovenia was a fairly virgin market at that point. COVID was going on. So there were like lots of big opportunities, and we wanted to not just rely on parenting, we wanted to build 10 businesses like that. And so he talked to like those 150 experts, and out of those, we ended up working with maybe about 5 to 10, somewhere in that range. Most of them were just not a good fit for us. Maybe they weren't hard workers. Maybe they weren't open to this kind of marketing. Maybe they wanted, to have an unrealistic share of the revenue. Maybe they just didn't have the time to do something like that. Like there's lots of reasons why, maybe it wasn't a good fit for us to work together at that point. So we kind of went through that, and then we did build, I think, somewhere between 5 and 10 different brands. That was like 2 years ago. And so we started a fitness brand, we started a brand for relationships, we started a brand for investing, for mom workouts for new moms, and so on and so on. So we tried a bunch of different things. And so here's my hypothesis or my experience why some of those projects didn't really turn out the way that we wanted them to. So the first thing is like the fit with the expert. Like, there's one thing when you have conversations, you're going to start working together. It's the difference between what people say and then what people do. How they perform. Yeah. So with some of the experts we saw after a couple of months, it just wasn't a good fit. Maybe they were like constantly late on the deadlines. Maybe their personality was just way too controlling. Like they would want to see like every single thing we spend our money on in our agency, and we would spend more time on that, sending them like all the invoices of everything that we do, which is what happens if you do any sort of like revenue or profit sharing. People will want to know everything. At a certain point, you're spending more time on that rather than growing the business. And it's just like, why are you spending like, $2,000 on a Facebook advertiser? I don't understand it. I have a brother that can do ads for us for $300 a month, right? There's things like this, like there were a couple of situations when that just didn't work out for us. And we decided to, even though there was a lot of potential in those products, like we were not able to do things in the way that we wanted to. We're moving way too slow. So we scrapped those projects, even though they could be promising on paper. In some examples, the niche just wasn't as good as we wanted it to be. Like there were a couple of brands that did okay. They would generate a couple $1,000s of profit every month. But then at a certain point, you have to make a decision as a CEO. Do you allocate your resources that you have to a project that generates, $3,000 a month for 20 with the same amount of work, right? And we just looked at the 80-20 rule, and we saw like, yeah, we could spend more time developing those brands, but there's not really that much potential. for them, because a lot of those brands we started again within the first weeks of me and my co-founder working together. As we started shooting the first course, we talked to other experts, developed their programs. Like we were working, day and night to just launch as many businesses as possible in a short amount of time. So we're working on that, but then again, it just wasn't paying off. It wasn't where we wanted it to be. And initially, when you have a small team, it's okay. Like you're earning $3,000 a month. Okay, that's great, But when you have a team of 10 people, that doesn't cover anything. That covers one salary a month. So that's when you really have to focus on products that are actually going to make a difference for a business. So that's kind of like the second thing, like just the market wasn't that good for us, or the expert wasn't as liked by the people as we would want them to. There's certain experts that have this charisma, that have this stage presence, that have like really good advice, that can create 50 different products and they're all going to be good. And then there's some experts that just have maybe like one good product in them. Maybe they're not as passionate about it. Maybe they're not that great on camera. And then when people just aren't blown away by their experience, they're not going to continue buying from you. So we didn't have a lot of those situations, but we did have a couple when it was just like, we tested this, we put it to the market, but the response was kind of like, yeah, even though it should have been better. And then again, we were just like decided to spend more time on the things that were working rather than on the things that weren't, because I think that was one of the biggest mistakes that we made. We had these projects and we would drag them out for 6 months before killing them. We should have probably killed them like within the first 3 weeks when we didn't have a great launch from the get-go. That was like a big lesson from then. It's like, same thing goes for a couple of things. One, when you start a business, if you don't see traction after you put it to market within 1 to 2 weeks, just kill it. Same thing with employees. If an employee isn't performing within the first couple of weeks, they're not going to get magically better. Like it's not going to happen. Like if they're constantly not on time, if they constantly make the same mistakes over and over again, they're not going to magically stop making them. And we definitely made a mistake here where we just kept employees like that for like 6 months, a year, rather than letting go of them, within 1 to 2 weeks before investing so much time into them. Like in business, hoping things will get better is a very, very bad strategy. And it's the most difficult thing is, in the middle, like when the project does really well, when it has a lot of traction, it's very easy to keep working on it. When it does really badly, it's very easy to let it go. The most difficult thing is when it's somewhere in the middle, when it's like, okay, but not great. That's
definitely guilty of that.
Yes, like that's when you get the most problems out of it. So those are some of the lessons that we, take with us. And hopefully you have a much clearer insight now, what makes some businesses successful and what didn't.
Yeah, absolutely. Yes. Yes, I think that's brilliant. So one thing that sets you guys apart is what you already talked about before is copywriting, right? You
Yes.
Obviously you come with 10 years of experience with copywriting, and a large part of your strategy is based on just strong copywriting, right? So you market to your audience with very good copywriting approach and good copywriting skills. Why is copywriting so powerful? Why? So I think there, you got different types of marketers. You got people who will say, well, just the website needs to look great and it's going to sell. And then you got people who are, you got people who are advertisers and they'll say, no, you just need good ads and it's going to sell well. Now your thing is copywriting. Why copywriting? Why is it so powerful?
I mean, look, you can find an argument for probably all of those approaches or all of those mindsets. Like, yes, great ads can solve many problems. Great copy can solve many problems. Great products can solve many problems. Great websites can solve many problems. You can probably find arguments for that. To be honest, all these things matter. It's just, I can tell you my experience of what matters more and what, matters less. There's plenty of situations where copy doesn't matter at all, which is a counterintuitive thing to say, but it's very, very true. When you have a product with an amazing product market fit, what I mean by that is when you have a product that doesn't really exist in the industry that you're selling to yet, that solves a big problem that people have that nobody else is solving for them. When you have a great product, or even a product, doesn't even have to be a great product. When you're the first person to offer a solution to a problem, your copy can be horrible. Like you can have bad copy, you can have no copy, you can have a one pager, and people will buy like crazy. It doesn't matter. Because if you have a great product and bad copy in a great market, that's going to do better than a bad product in a bad market with great copy, great ads, great everything. Because, I'm not the one that came up with this idea. Like people have been talking about it for hundreds of years. Like Eugene Schwartz in his book, Breakthrough Advertising, like he talks about this. Like you can't convince people to buy something that they don't want. If you want to build a multi-million-dollar business, it has to be based on like this desire, this drive, this pain of the audience that they already have. They must already want something. And maybe you can pull a Steve Jobs and say like, hey, if you look at, or like, Ford, and say like, hey, people, if I ask people what they would want, they would just say faster horse and not a car. Like, yes, you can apply that methodology in some cases, but in most cases, if you just guess and just create products that you think people want, and it's a product that doesn't really help them, doesn't really solve a problem, it's just not going to do well. So I would say, when it comes to importance, the product market fit is the single most important thing. Like finding a virgin market where there's no competition, that's probably the single best thing that you can do. Like, if I had this country, I don't know, maybe it's North Korea or South Korea or whatever, and there's no single fat loss course out there, you can provide a very crappy product with crappy copy, launch it in like Korean language, and it's gonna do well. Like it's just gonna do well. The ads are gonna be cheap because nobody's advertising. The conversion is gonna be high because you're the first person offering a product. Like we saw this actually. Like we saw this phenomenon during COVID in Slovenia, right? It was the people that started um, creating this like face masks, started just like sewing them together with some like designs. Like someone that I know built a huge business out of this during this time, paid off their mortgage in advance, paid off all of their loans and everything. Like they made a shitload of money doing this. Why? Because there was a desperate need. People wanted masks, they didn't want like the ugly masks. Like they were the first people offering it, and everything was working. They put out a new mask, it was working. They sent an email, it was working. They set up ads, it was working. Everything is just working, even though their copy was non-existent, essentially. Right? So I'd say like the product market fit is like always the single most important thing. You don't have product market fit, you can have great copy, have great ads, have great website. Doesn't matter. You can't convince people, to buy basically lipstick on a pig. Like I haven't seen it work. I don't know a single product that would become like a $1 million business, even like a six-figure business, that would be a shitty product, with great copy but a bad product. There are cases when people can write copy that's maybe a little bit misleading, and they can make big promises that the product doesn't deliver on. Can make a decent amount of money with that. Problem is people are gonna, find out, not be happy, not buy from you anymore. I would say at best it's scammy. At worst, it's, I don't know, you can probably get sued, or it's just like your business is gonna crash and burn. So that I would not recommend, making promises that your product cannot really deliver on. Because you can write copy about anything, right? I can say like, hey, here's this amazing fat loss supplement, but if you're selling bullshit, then I mean, only so long you can get away with it. You can make a few $10,000, but then people find out, and not going to be a good experience. So yeah, product market fit, always the first thing from my experience. After that, the copy or the ads. Well, I mean, ads do include copy, so that also matters there. But let's just say, is it better to have really strong advertising in any sort of way, or is it better to have a really strong sales page? So if you have product market fit, if you have great ads, and if you have okay copy, you're gonna do great, because like you're gonna get a lot of people to your website, and even though your copy is okay, people are gonna buy. If you have okay ads and great copy, you're gonna get less people to the website, but then more of them are gonna buy. The choice is not really which one of those things you want to do. You want to do both, and you want to do them well. Like again, we've had times when we had amazing ads, we had times we had shitty ads, we had times when we had great copy and we had okay copy. At the end of the day, I think all of those things matter. Again, when you're writing an ad, the headline, the lead, what's on the image of the ad, all of those things matter, because if only 0.2% of the people, that see an ad click on it, it's going to be very hard for you to mathematically have a really good business just because you're paying so much per click. It's still possible, but if you had a 2% click-through rate, which is 10 times higher, you could probably sell 5 times more of the same product. So why wouldn't you do that, right? It's like, so as I said, like my thing is copywriting. Why? Because I like it, because I've done it a lot, because I see that it makes an impact. I'm also interested in ads. I'm also interested in like all the funnels, all the things on the back end. I always try to learn and improve. But I'm not saying it's like the holy grail of anything, because if you don't have product market fit, I can't help you with the copy, you know.
That makes sense. And I think all those things accumulate, right? So everything adds a little bit. I guess it depends a lot also on how saturated the market is. So the more saturated the market, the more you need to have additional competitive edge on different fronts, I suppose. You need to be really good at advertising, and you need to be really good at copywriting, and then you need to have really good website and so on and so forth. But if you just want to build a very good and profitable business, you need to be good at all of those. One reason why I think copywriting is really...
Sorry, one more thing.
Yeah.
This might be like UX designers will hate me for this, but I would actually say that the website is one of the least important things. Because if you use like direct response copywriting, when somebody just lands on a page and they just read the page and either they buy or don't buy, then how your website looks doesn't even matter, because you have to have one page. It can be almost like plain text and it can still work. So I would say the website, yes, people love selling $10,000, $50,000 websites. And yes, for, e-commerce stores, things like that, websites can make a big difference in conversions. But if we're talking about direct marketing, where just, you're sending people to this one page to buy this one product, design is super overrated. Even if you have like like when I ran my own business and sold copywriting courses, my design was horrible. It was like so bad. And still I could have like a 40K launch, with a very crappy design. And then I would have my page redesigned. Wouldn't really make much of a difference. At our own company, we improved designs of the whole web page and everything. Nothing really changed. I would say that we saw the biggest impact on optimizing things like checkouts, like optimizing the checkout experience and like the upsell design. Those things actually moved the needle. Others didn't. And then there's also one other thing that really is a big waste of money, and that's professional looking courses and videos. Like, you hear stories of like Masterclass investing like $300,000 into like developing one of their programs. And then, we had this mentality like, oh, we have to pay $5,000 to have like a course recorded and $5,000 for a website to have it set up. And, then we're $10,000 in the red before we even launch. And then if the brand fails, we eat up those costs, right? Turns out nobody really cares. Like, unless you're selling something that's related to beautiful design, like the back end design, like how your videos look, nobody really cares. Like, I've tested this with a bunch of different brands. It makes you feel good because you're like proud of it, but you won't get more sales. You won't get more conversions if you have beautiful looking videos versus a Zoom video or video shot with your iPhone. I have not seen a difference at all. So sorry, just wanted to comment on that part, because that I have found, it's just like, yeah, people like nice websites. Again, I would be proud of having a nice website, but I also know that it's not going to help me sell a whole lot more than if I spent all that time on, creating great copy or creating any product. I think from my experience, that's much more valuable.
That makes sense. One thing why also I think copywriting is a really good skill is because if you look at all the things that we talked about right now, right? So you got ads, you got the website, the website needs copy. So ads need copy as well. So I think the visual aspect of the ad depends on your product, right? If your product is something very visual, then that's obviously incredibly important and very powerful. But if your product is something that's not necessarily so visual, then I think the copy of the ad can also be super important, or maybe the more important part. So I've seen people who are copywriters and they kind of don't care so much about the visual aspect of the ad. They just focus on the copy of it. So the visual aspect just kind of has to attract attention, but then they write really good copy, and then that converts people to the website. And then the website is, today it's very easy to build a website, right? You don't need to build something custom. You don't need to design something custom. You can actually take templates. You can use WordPress. You can use Shopify, whatever you want. So you don't actually need that skill, but you do need to write copy. I don't think you can use templated, pre-written copy. Maybe, I mean, you can get some inspiration from somewhere, but you'll still need to write something. So it's kind of something you can't just buy and install or use out of the box. You kind of have to write at least some of it. And that's what can then really make the difference in your, in your whole funnel, from the ad all the way to the purchase. And then if you think about, back-end sales, or you were talking about mailing list, again, like setting it up is relatively straightforward, but you need good copy to actually sell them to your mailing list, right? Or to write newsletters and sales emails and so on.
Yeah, I mean, I absolutely agree with you. And it's funny because you're speaking about, how it's always to set up a website. Because when I set up my first website, like 8-9 years ago, was not easy. We had none of these templates. We had none of this email software. Remember using Aweber for emails, which was just a horrible experience. And I learned all those skills, and I definitely didn't have a skill to build my own website, so I had to hire some people to do that. Nowadays, as you said, there's so many drag and drop tools. There are so many ways in which, you can launch a business relatively quickly just using templates for design. Copywriting, two things. One, I would say that copywriting is probably one of the single most important skills you can learn in your life if you don't want to struggle with making money. Like, it's just that simple. Like, you have these people that are not entrepreneurs, and they are always like, oh, what if your business fails? Like, what if you have a really big bad month? Like, what if recession comes? I'm like, well, worst case scenario, if all of my businesses fail, I can just message a friend and write copy for them. I can just freelance. If you have a skill to sell something, and help somebody create more sales, and then you get a cut of that, you're never going to be broke. Like, you have to get good at it. Of course, you have to develop the skill and spend, a couple of months, couple of years, like really developing it. But, there's like, even if everything fails and you just give me a laptop, not even a laptop, just give me a piece of paper and a pen, I can make money. It's a pretty good way to have, either financial freedom or financial security or whatever, because this is the one skill that nobody can take away from you. And it's one skill that's going to continue working, even when TikTok is not here anymore, even when Facebook is not here anymore. There's just going to be new mediums, like, people used to write like this direct mail order copy. They would send these envelopes, and they still do to this day. And they still make a lot of money with things like that. And they would have this like infomercials on TV. It's all copy. Like, you have copy everywhere. Like, just the medium might change, but it's a skill that will never go away unless, like, we stop selling things. But that doesn't make sense, because people will want to buy things. You still have to sell a car that you make. You still have to sell a loaf of bread in a store. You still have to sell your new vegan cupcakes that you're making. Like, everybody needs copy. Gyms need copy. Pastry stores need copy. Every single business on earth can benefit from copy. And now there's more and more businesses, but there's not as many new copywriters as there are new businesses. So I would just say, like, if I could choose one skill, this would probably be it. And then, can you use templates? Can you use AI copywriting? Things like that, to avoid needing to have a copywriter. I would say AI copywriting, some people are big fans of it. I'm not. I don't know. Just like, it can create okay content, but then again, it's AI. It's typically just learning from the things that are already out there. So it's not going to be that disruptive. It's not going to be unique. It's not really going to be like a home run for you, from what I've seen. I know a lot of people use things like that to, do freelance content writing, and they don't really write anything. But, like, to me, that's just, it's not exciting to do that. So I think you could use it to a certain extent, and it's probably going to develop more over the next few years. But still, like if you base your, AI based on all the things that were already said and developed, I don't know. Maybe, one day I change my mind and you won't need a copywriter. But I just don't see like, because when you write copy, you have to have these conversations with the expert, understand the product, and do the customer research, talk to your potential customers, talk to your existing customers. I don't see how AI could replace that. You could do all of those things and then plug it into an AI tool, and then it builds copy. But you still have to do the research part of it, which is probably 50, 70, 80% of a successful ad in the first place. So you still have to do that unless we have robots running around doing these things for us. I don't know. Templates. So templates can work well, actually, in
Copy templates or
yeah, copy templates.
okay.
Copywriting templates, like the thing is, like even at our agency, we were having this conversation that we probably spend too much time writing copy, too much time teaching, copy to new copywriters to join our business, because it's very intensive. Like somebody always needs to train them, and you don't really want them to be creative on the get-go. It's like you're a mechanic, you hire like a new junior mechanic. Like you're not going to teach them how to be really creative. You just have to teach them how to fix the tire, how to fix the handbrake, how to fix the gearbox. You just have to teach them like the systems and processes. And I do believe there's some general principles, frameworks, processes that you should teach someone. And there are ways to create templates for copywriting, not maybe word for word templates, but just like templates, like in terms of like, which section goes where, what do you typically say in that section, which,
Yeah.
questions you answer, and so on and so on. So I do think that the templates can work fairly well with an asterisk in the places where you have a really good product market fit and it's not as competitive. If there's 10 gyms using same templates, it's not going to work for any of them at the end of the day. But yeah, you could probably buy a bundle of gym marketing, copywriting templates online and just use them to write emails to your email list in Slovenia and grow your gym fairly bit. Yeah, it would probably work. I think it's totally fine. Will it help you absolutely dominate the space and like create a chain of 100 gyms? Probably not, but it can be a good starting point for sure. Because just like you have that framework, you have those principles that are working over and over again. There's a headline, there's a lead, there's like this guarantee, there's the offer summary, there's the risk reversal, future pacing, the close, all those things, all the elements of great copy. You can create a template. But then I was just having this conversation with one of my clients this morning. Like the templates, they help you build a certain mental structure, mental framework of how to write copy. And it's not the end point, it's the starting point. After that, it's more like the unwritten rules. It's like the thinking process. It's like when I sit down with one of our copywriters, they explain to me what they're thinking about the product, and they told me that they get the most value out of not just me giving them a book or a framework or whatever. Like they want to hear me explain how I'm thinking about something, and how their process is different than mine, because that's when they really learn the most. Because the thing is, there's lots of rules in copywriting. Every sales page I write, I probably break about 5 of them. And it's going to be a different 5 rules. And if I compare like the last 10 sales pages that I've written, they're probably going to be like 10, 20% the same. And then 80% is going to be completely different. The only way that you can learn that is by learning more and more different techniques, studying different types of copy, looking at other industries, and then seeing what really makes a sense for your product. One product has an amazing origin story of how developed it, they developed it out of nothing. One product has a great customer transformation story. Another product has a great story, about the desire that you want to market around. Another one, starts with this really painful story. So it's really understanding the frameworks, but then knowing how to take all the research, take all the information, take all the frameworks, and then make it work for the product that you're currently selling, and then also putting it to market and then learning from that, and pivoting and iterating from there on. So I think templates can get you, 20% of the way there. And again, great product market fit. It's going to work. If you're in a very competitive market, you're going to lose. You'd stand no chance. That's where, like for example, with one of the fitness brands that I'm running the marketing for, we have a fairly crowded market even in Slovenia right now. And if we did crappy copy, we would not be profitable. It's just that simple. So we have to have good copy. We have to have good products. Because the business would not stay alive for very long if we didn't have that.
You were telling me about an example before. You came into some business because you do a lot of coaching, consulting, mentoring as well, right? You work with other business owners. And you were telling me a story before we started recording. You came into one business, they were like not doing that great or just about break even. And then can you tell a little bit more about that? You managed to turn it around quite a bit.
Sure. So this was a business, I knew of it before. I'm not going to share which industry it was in, just for the confidentiality purposes, but there's this business, I've heard of it, I thought it was very successful. I knew that they work with one of the best marketing agencies in Slovenia who have amazing ads, who can write decent copy as well. I've only heard good things about that agency in the past. And with the help of that agency, they really exploded their business early on. Also, like when the COVID started, they took advantage of that, and they're really hard workers. So they built this business, and they were bringing in, let's say, a couple of $100,000 in revenue, every month. Like everything was just exploding, everything was working, but then the revenue didn't really match the profit. Even at that time when they had amazing months, they probably were doing worse than our parenting business was, with maybe a fifth of the revenue that we had there. Because you can, bring in a lot of revenue by selling a lot of stuff, but then if you have really high ad spend, then, you still have to pay the ads bill eventually. You can scale things up really fast, but then scale and revenue doesn't mean profit. It's the same thing for our parenting business. We had a 100K month and we were in the red at the end of the month. Our best month ever, to date, and we're spending like 50K on ads and, a lot on the team and a lot on the ads agency. And then we're paying money out of our own pocket for it. So the revenue and profit are two very, very, very different things. So there was this company. They were doing well. They were, working with this agency. Things were exploding, and then they were making some money, but not a whole lot of it. And then eventually the agency decided they don't want to work with them anymore. So they tried a couple of different agencies, and none of them could really even replicate the results of their previous agency. So as far as I know, they weren't in the best place profit-wise. And I've spoken with them a couple of times before. And, one day they said like, hey, do you want to work together in some way? And I said like, sure. Okay, let's test it out. So we made an agreement that I would help take over some of their marketing, just, like which products we launch, how often we launch them, and then most importantly, like the copywriting. So I start writing some of the sales pages. They would write the emails. I would help them out a little bit with that. And within the last, I think it's going to be like 6 months when we work together. I think we started working together like in April. So yeah, about 6 months. We've had the most profitable year. So in 6 months, we generated more profit than before in a year. And there's still a couple of months to go, and that's without, January, February, March, which are typically great for almost any industry. So yeah, I would say we scaled things up quite a bit, and the major difference was just copy. We had a good plan for the copy. We took some of the products that they already had, and we just wrote new copy for them. Conversions would double, and when your conversions double on anything, like just everything changes. You're twice as profitable. You can spend twice as much on ads if you want to. It's just like everything becomes so much easier. You sell, let's say you sell $100,000, worth of products. Instead of spending 50K on ads, you're spending 25K on ads. That can be 25K in your pocket at the end of the day. And that was not, 50 hours of work. That was maybe like a 4-hour sales page. Those are probably like the best 4 hours that I've ever spent, almost anywhere. Like the hourly rate is insane. So we'll just repeat that. We would, write really good copy for the new products we launched, and then update some of the old products, and then just, the profit just started pouring in because we had a strong foundation for our business. Even though their website, even though everything else was great, without copy, it wasn't working. And then the copy came, and then all of a sudden there's a big difference. And I noticed the same thing in so many different businesses that I've consulted on or worked with in the past. With businesses that are established, that are selling something successfully already, we've had many cases when a business went from like 10K a month to 30K a month. The only tweaks were a couple of like copy changes, maybe a new sales page or two, maybe a new angle, maybe creating some upsells with some copy. Like those simple copy tweaks can really make a big difference in just like the overall health of the business, almost any business, I would say.
Amazing. Great. Great case study. I think we're going to start wrapping up. So we came to about 1 hour. I am really excited to see what else you guys create with WeCreateCourses, with the agency. I think you're going to come on in a few years when you're going to be doing many millions in revenue. So we're going to do another next episode with new lessons and, new success that you'll be able to share at that point. And yeah, pretty much always a huge pleasure having you on and just geeking about copywriting and online marketing and direct response and digital products and like all the things that you're obviously really, really good at. So man, thanks again for coming on.
Yeah, thanks for having me, and see you in a year.
See you in a year. Thanks for listening until the end. I hope you enjoyed it. If you like the content, please do me a favor and click the like button on YouTube or give us 5 stars on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, wherever it is that you listen to your podcasts. Leave a comment. Subscribe if you want to hear more from us. That really helps also to get the podcast out there, and that helps me get more interesting guests and create even more interesting content. So I really appreciate if you do that. If you have any other comments, questions, feel free to message me. You can find me on Twitter. That's usually the best channel. The link should be somewhere in the description. And yeah, check out my Twitter. I try to tweet interesting stuff about similar content that we talk about on the podcast. Key insights from the podcast as well, and just generally stuff that I learn and stuff that I do. So see you. Thanks.